Okay, welcome back everybody. My name's Luke Gledhill. Welcome to Culture Your Creative. Today is Earth Day. It's a really special day. So I'm super excited for the guest that I have today. I run a branding development agency here in Los Angeles called Just Up the Road. I help brands and companies take their message and their brand and product and reach that to the people they want to reach through. I also host the 21st Club, which brings together people that do good and give back through social, spiritual, and environmental initiatives. So today's guest, Maurizio, I had the pleasure of speaking with him on a panel earlier this year. So let's bring Maurizio in.
Hi,
hey, Maurizio. It's great to see you again.
Likewise.
Let me just start really quickly. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. On Earth Day, which I know is important for you as well. Let's so actually you and I, we met a little while ago, but I was very fortunate to have you speak on one of my panels earlier this year downtown in Los Angeles. I'd love to hear you explain very briefly who you are and what it is that you're currently doing.
Oh. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Who I am? What a tricky question. I'm a human being like everyone else, and originally from Italy. I spent some time. I left early, really. I left Italy really early in my life. I was 23, 24. Went to Paris for a few years, went to Germany, and then I moved to US in '84. I'm saying that, and I have been moving from Nashville to Miami to the Caribbean to New York, and then 3 years I lived in Amsterdam, and then in 2012 we moved to Los Angeles, and yeah, I'm saying all of this because I feel more of a citizen of the world than Italians or American, and I think that I was extremely lucky in my life to had the opportunity of traveling for work and sometimes for pleasure, mostly work, I have to say, but learning differences, learning languages also, and learning how people think on the other side of the planet. It's quite a gift, and that really dictated my choices, dictated the way I am, I guess, today, which is extremely difficult to explain, because I feel I am, look at the situation we live in. I mean, we thought we have experienced everything, and we actually didn't. So now we are, I think we are at the end. I mean, I'm talking about and I'm respectful about the people that were touched by this virus in a negative way, health-wise, of course. But what a unique opportunity to pause, and the pausing is financial, is political, is and all of that together is quite disturbing to me. But I think that that all of these incredible, unique, surreal, truly amazing experiences that I went through for now 62 years brought me to be who I am, and also very difficult to describe myself, because I think I don't want to describe myself, because a description of myself will be my prison.
Yeah, no, do you know what? Now I really think and hear you say that I already know this conversation is going to be great, because the bigger question is how are you defined as a person, or what is it that people believe do define you as a person? So to hear you talk about the places you've traveled, the languages you speak, the people you've met, the things you've done and seen, you know, it is amazing to think that, well, now we have an opportunity to redefine everything if we choose to. Let me, before we go a bit deeper, because I know this can get deep, just explain the current project. I wouldn't call it a project, but what you actually currently do.
I think I have I have a few things going on. One is a consultancy studio that I run with my wife, Marisa, and we started a studio about 8 years ago when we moved to LA. That was the reason why we moved. We wanted a new city and a new project, and a consultancy studio made sense at that time, and still makes sense today, by the way. So, and we have that business, a time bigger, a time smaller, because we also got involved 5 years ago with this project called Atelier Repairs, which was initially a hobby, and it became a very consuming initiative because we wanted somehow, and I don't want to sound, you are the judge of this, not me. So I had the idea is that it was, there are so many things that I like in the industry that I have been for many years: clothing, textile, apparel, whatever you want to call it. And Atelier Repairs was originated by a mystic crisis that I had, and say, as much as I love this industry, creative and at times fun and interesting, and people and style and colors and all that stuff that is exciting, there are also many things that do not work. Okay, and those things that at one point were just a second thought, it was just a question that I had for myself, but I never went there. One day became very apparent to me that the system of clothing was broken. And I said, maybe there are ways of showing that there is another side of the clothing business, or there is another side of being creative and innovative within the business. Mind you, the idea was never to be a huge company. The idea was to be I call it a positive example.
I love that.
Or an eye opener, or a door opener for more conversation to come. I mean, I went into production without having any experience in production. Our production wasn't anything but normal, because we basically were a company we were a brand without manufacturing. We were a brand that was transforming what already was in existence. So it was, but we source secondhand stuff left over from brands, and then we recondition them, we transform them, we embellish them, we make them to look like they had a completely new life. And it was a lot of work in the beginning. Sorry, it was always a lot of work, but it became, from a hobby, it became something a little bit bigger, became 10% of what we were doing, and then 20 and 30 and 50. And during the last couple of years, it became very consuming. Maybe 80% of our time was devoted to developing this system, if you will, this story, with a tremendous reward I have to say, and where we almost destroyed the bureaucracy of design.
Right.
We went from idea to sewing machine or to a Caesar without going through technical sketches and testing. And so it was a very emotional way of going into the product. And so Atelier Repair was a lot of my time, a lot of our time was involved there. And then lastly, I have been collecting now for 35 years. And now I spend actually the last 2 or 3 months reorganizing my archive, which is something that I really want to pay more attention in the future because first of all, it's a fun project. It's appealing from brands to come and see what this is all about.
Well,
And
you and I,
yeah,
sorry, Maurizio, you and I had a great conversation at your store about your vintage collection and how your vintage collection actually could be, I wouldn't call it a museum, but an exhibition of some sort for education for whether it's students or people in the fashion industry or people who own brands. Sorry to cut you off then.
no. It's what you just said is it's this is not an archive for I'm not a I'm not a collector, but I do buy what I think what speaks to me. And in the past it was random, and now it's a little bit more focused, I would say. It is not the biggest collection in the world or the best archive in the world. It is not. There are I know several people that have incredible museum archives, or company that have incredible archives. But for me, is for the creative stimulation that I need. Every time I'm running out of ideas, I just go there, and I know I'm going to find something that speaks to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
that, yeah,
you and I were just talking before we started this about even your collection of publications, magazines from back when in the 90s or whenever it was, from UK editions to, and you exactly what you just said about your vintage archive and giving you inspiration and ideas. You do the same with your publications as well.
yeah.
Look, before we go much further, just for people that are watching this or are going to listen to this later on, I'd just like to expand a bit on Atelier and Repairs from just a top level, as in, and give you my opinion as well. I was blown away when I first saw the creations that you make through Atelier and Repairs, in the way that everything you said, you take classic pieces, vintage products, dead stock products, but then really reinterpret it with your own stamp of creativity in a way that I've never seen before. And I've been in fashion for a long, long time. And
Thank you.
just so the people are aware that these products are available to purchase. And the whole point of Atelier Repairs, as you mentioned, is to repurpose, reintroduce circular fashion so that it lives on and it keeps living on. And one of the taglines of Atelier Repairs is that you want to put yourself out of business, which we all know isn't going to happen because there's an abundance of product in the marketplace. But just like really what I would like to know more is what you believe creatively your effect on the fashion industry, because you don't call yourself a designer, and you already explained that you never produced before, but what you do create is something that is extremely unique but at the forefront and cutting edge, I believe. And just to a testament to that is whenever I mention your name, to people I know, they know you. And I'm surprised that so many people within the industry look up to you and the work that you do as well.
It's good to hear. um, well, I think like everyone else, is the journey that takes you there. I think in at one point in everybody's life, there is a moment where the journey seems to be more clear, and you are attracted by certain things. You are not attracted by other things, so you make choices. Fundamentally, I believe nothing. I really don't believe in anything, but I feel everything. So I'm a person that feels more than a person that believes. And I think that maybe for some this is unusual because I can't really, and again, I don't want to sound strange, but if I'm my grandmother used to tell me every family, large Italian family, every family has an anarchist in the family, and you happen to be the one. And meaning that maybe I was thinking differently when I was still young, and I had some interests that were unusual, if you will, or my thinking was too forward or I was challenging the status quo. I was asking the questions that everybody asks: is why is this happening? Why do I have to do that? And I think it is quite interesting how, as I age, I go back to my teens years, which were the absolutely more creative years in my life, because I was creating my own philosophy, my own story, my own character by taking from what I thought was good, and I went to see and got things that had a particular feeling. I had feelings, so I went for it. I tried many different things, but fundamentally, I think is the lack of fear somehow that takes me to make certain decisions.
Let me just elaborate on that a bit more, Maurizio. Some things that you said that really touch home is that society, in a way, is set up with structures. Okay. And to hear your grandmother say that you were the anarchist of the family, obviously she meant that in a loving way and wanted you to pursue that, right? The systems that are set up in place in society are not for somebody like you. They're set up in a way for people to live a comfortable life, an easy path of life. And I think that the yin and yang of that is that we need more people like you to be questioning what is supposed to be normal. Does that make sense?
I think that we need diversity for progress. For sure, we need a few people like me. We need a few people like yourself. We need a few people like the other people that we know. I think the essence here is that we are we have this incredible gift that it's called the brain, and we can actually fit him. We can fit it. We can inform him. We can uh, create enough stimulations from what we see, feel, and touch, and that takes you. The brain takes you always to a different place. Um, Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but mostly I would say is good. Okay, there are exceptions, but I think that diversity is what make us grow. Being exposed to people that don't think like yourself, your best, your fear your friends, love your enemies because they make you think, they make you do things in a certain way. I'm not,
Yeah.
not dividing the world here, but I'm
Yeah.
saying that it is important that we understand that we collectively, even though we have big differences culturally, and we still have all the answers. We still have all the answers if we want to
Yeah.
solve, if we want to answer that question. We know how to. And fortunately, there are other motives that have been contaminating this concept. But
Well, let me.
anarchy is democracy without a government.
Yeah.
If you feel that with a dialogue you can solve any conflict, then you don't need people to tell you what to do.
This is true. And I listen to Russell Brand a lot from the UK, and he's very much talks and aligns with what you're saying. But let me ask you this. I didn't have this written down as a question, but I'm really curious to know when you explained before that, for example, you don't follow trends, you go with your intuition on how you feel. How are you able to do this? Because as you were saying that, and as you were just talking then, I was thinking that creatively, when you mentioned about going back to your teens to remember how you were creatively then, it made me think that, and it really has enabled me to understand now with everything that's going on, to be, whether I meditate more or do something else that helps me block out the white noise. For most parts of the day or parts of the day, I still get blocked by white noise and I'm unable to reach my creativity. How are you able to channel that and consistently do that more when you go from your intuition?
We more now in the last month or two than ever, we are at the mercy of the media. There are noises coming from everywhere. We have never spent so much time on computers and phones, TVs, and so forth. The more we'll listen to the traditional. When I say traditional, it's like media, mass media, which and I cannot even imagine, by the way, a life without internet. Okay, but I also think that with this formidable force and science of the internet, we become consequently polluted. And I think that, and it's a lot of dust. You still have the freedom and the intellectual capacity to say, I don't believe at anything that I'm given, that I'm listening, or that's the very Italian thing to do, is say, I'm questioning everything. There is no truth here, and I need to question, I need to answer a lot of questions, and until I don't have an answer, I will follow my instinct. Okay, and I believe that that is right, and that might be wrong. I don't know. So I think that this pollution, the pollution of news and the stimulation and voices and opinions, for me it's dust. I equate that to dust. And as it is dust, you do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Do this, and then and you always have option to be as clean as you can from this pollution, and And then if something is not clear, if something remains in your brain, go inform yourself.
Yeah.
Read a book, call somebody that is an expert, ask a friend, ask your family. It really depends what the topic or the conversation is. But, you know, it's easy to criticize politics. That doesn't mean that we can run a country.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very difficult. It's like it's just a silly example, but I think that we need to inform ourselves. This is our moment to inform ourselves. The more you inform yourself, the more one is able to put together thoughts that are more informed, or more clear, and to that together with the experience brings you to the choices that you're making because of your instinct. Something I felt, something I read together. Okay, I think that I feel that that's the way.
Yeah.
And you do it.
Yeah. I really love that you just said that. But I honestly think that outside of fashion, you are a creative thought leader as well. I think you should have your own TV show, Maurizio. let, let me, I love this whole conversation, but I want to go back to bring it back to fashion again,
Yeah.
because we didn't preface this with the actual your experience in fashion. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the work you did when you were in Amsterdam, some of the brands that you worked with, and I know you were on a open budget to travel the world under some companies to do work. Just explain a bit about that.
Um, I started in 1980 with a company called Benetton, United Colors of Benetton. And I I spent with this company about 10, 11 years, I think, from being a stock boy in a warehouse all the way to being the head of sales for for certain areas and being responsible for a number of shops. So very heavy retail. Um, I was not interested in fashion then, but it was a fun job, and didn't make a lot of money at all, actually. But it was very, very interesting to work with a company that was experiencing incredible growth and success, and a company that gave me the opportunity to travel not the world, but travel a lot, and meet a lot of different people, and grow also, and have a career. Mind you, before then, because I wasn't at all a good, I was a stock boy. So I was a stock boy in a factory. Sorry, I was a steel worker in a factory for 3 years, 3.5 years. So that was a really difficult job to do. It wasn't because it was heavy, because I was young and I had the strength, but it was because I was confined in a space and it wasn't healthy, and it was. I remember being dark and gray, and and uh, and then I needed to, before then, when I was young, I was involved with theater, music. I played the bass. Of course, I play soccer. I play rugby. I was involved in politics. I smoked my joints, and I did all that stuff. And But then from that, I went to be a steel worker, and then Benetton gave me color, put colors in my life, and it wasn't about fashion. Is later on I went to work for a company, Diesel jeans, and Diesel jeans where they were about to open retail shops in the United States. So they hired me to become the head of retail for them based in New York. And I spent 5 years with this company. Did I love fashion then? No, but I found a company that at that time was what I consider a cult brand, particularly in the world of jeans in denim. It probably was one of the first company that really created, if not the first company that really put premium denim, truly premium denim,
Yeah.
in the marketplace at a higher price point, but very well justified by exceptional quality in fabrics, in construction. And it was super fun to work with them because it was a cult company. It was partially a rock band,
Yeah.
partially a fashion company or a clothing company. And
What
then
year was that you were with Diesel?
94 to 98, or early 99.
Wow.
And after that, I left after 5 years and I went to work for Armani. And I spent about 6 years at Armani with a couple of changes of jobs. And I was hired for a very technical position, also head of retail for the Emporio Armani stores in the United States, which was very large business at that time. And then because I developed a passion for product working with Benetton and then with Diesel, this passion for product was noted, I would say, by Mr. Armani. And he said, well, I'd like for you to be more involved in product. And because you come from a background that it's not formal, more casual, they help us to bring in ideas and inspirations and stories to grow our casual business. And I did that for 5 years, 6 years.
Wow.
And so it was an extremely creative job, so creative, in fact, that I left after 6 years because I felt it was too creative.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
I felt I ran out of ideas.
Right.
I felt I was repetitive, and I felt that I was not bringing to the Armani company. I was not bringing um, more. I mean, what they really needed, because everything looked familiar
Right.
after. And maybe for them it was great. They asked me to rethink about the decision, but I I didn't want to stay there because I even though it was difficult to live, I had a fantastic job. Look,
Yeah.
fantastic job, but it was, I felt incomplete. So I went to work for Ralph Lauren, and I spent about 4 years there. I was responsible for a division called Double RL. And I worked there from January 2006 to 2009. Wonderful experience. And it was half creative and half technical. Double RL is an incredible concept, very, very dear to Mr. Lauren. And since 1993, when they started this division, it was extremely well accepted by the people that know that understand that aesthetic, but it was not commercially successful.
Right.
And so we basically created a foundation for to for that to become not a hobby as it was, but a true brand with a point of view, with a retail story, with a wholesale story, and to create a product assortment that really um, that really that really felt like the celebration of American lifestyle.
Right, right.
A certain lifestyle which is more outdoor and 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 casual, but with tremendous quality behind it, and a really, I would say, a very pure point of view. I would say people behind the brands are truly they're scientists. So
Wow.
the designer, the concept designer, the people that are involved in fabrics and product developers, they're really, really, really competent people.
So did you go from there then to launching your own project? Was there anything else in between?
Well, I went to, after 4 years, I went to Levi's.
Ah,
So
yeah,
I went to, they moved me to Amsterdam, and I became responsible for a division called Levi's XX, which was nothing else than an almost like an independent division responsible for the premium lines, particularly Levi's vintage clothing and Levi's made and crafted.
right, right.
And I spent 3 years in Amsterdam, and I traveled frequently to San Francisco, where I actually had another job also there, but that's another conversation. It was amazing. It was great. It was another incredible experience. I learned plenty and loved every second, and but also gave me an opportunity to rethink about what I wanted to do in life, and that's what we decided to do in 2012. We said, let's move to LA, a city that we liked.
Yeah.
We always liked and felt comfortable here, and then we started this studio.
So I really respect your opinion, and I'd like to know who you think is really leading the way creatively, particularly, well, it doesn't have to be in fashion, but creatively, that is tied in some way to sustainability or making the future better and brighter.
It's an incredible question. It's a very difficult question to answer because sustainability is an empty word. Empty in the sense that almost like it's a word that defines the perfect way of doing certain things, which doesn't exist, not only in the business of clothing, but generally speaking, the paradise of sustainability doesn't exist. The moment we wake up in the morning and we start doing something, we pollute the world.
Yeah.
It's a, we are responsible for pollution. We are responsible for making certain decisions that we will not probably pay the consequences during our lives, but later on, it is very clear that somebody will pay the price of decision that we have made in the past, and they will not be happy about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's difficult. I can say that a lot of there's a lot of creativity out there. There's a lot of small brands or big brands that are pushing the envelope, that are showing creative example. Emily Bode, I think it's how you, Bode. I don't
Okay.
know exactly how it's pronounced, but I think it's Emily Bode. Um, she's, I think she's extraordinary. There's something very interesting about the way she does things and she feels things. There are a company in England called Too Good. But what I would say, I think, is that lately I have seen a lot of artisans, a lot of people that have started to do things in their own, and they don't have a company, they work out of their house, they learn how to, stitch, so do patchwork or do sashiko stitching, or they have, all of this is important because it's because I think that it's sustainability is something starts from a very personal space. And it's like oh, tomorrow we're going to work and we have a big meeting and sustainability. Let's those, and there are plenty of this stuff going on. They have marketing initiative, a company that says that they are sustainable. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
They don't do it. They have 2 or 3 people. They have a couple of people researching, finding it, but there is no action plan. While personally, we can learn how to paint, we can learn how to mend a pair of pants, or we can do certain things. And when you're good at it, when you become good at it, is when you become also creative, because you don't have to think about the mistakes anymore, but you think about how can I improve. And I think that there is, I see a lot of younger people and people in general being very attractive to doing things themselves. I think that if that is the foundation of a society that wants to push forward, there's no going back to, to something traditional and conservative. It's like people are interested in doing things that feels right.
Yeah.
And then if it is called sustainability or responsible thinking, it's for other people to find the title for it.
Sure.
The most important thing is to generate enthusiasm and curiosity and inspire people to embrace a different way of consuming and using what they already have.
Yeah, and I think I had this conversation with Deshelle a couple of days ago, who obviously Deshelle from Gallery LA, and she said that it must start with self, right? And there was something you alluded to and mentioned before about in a boardroom, someone's having a meeting, we're going to talk sustainability. Well, that doesn't go any further, because if it doesn't start with self, then it's not going to ruminate and turn into anything other than the meeting you have and then you leave. Because like you mentioned, you have to feel it yourself, what feels right to you and natural to you. And once you've asked those questions yourself, you know the answer and you start to look further and further into it. Now, I think you and I spoke about this before. Sustainability as a word, like you said, is empty. It doesn't really truly mean anything, because how can something be sustainable when it's changing all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you even said in the conversation we had on the panel about starting with self and self-love and making the right choices for yourself. And then that energy ruminates and will be attracted and spread across to your friends, your family, and your choices.
I think I think the concept of education, which sometimes we forget how important that is like if school is not going to give you everything. Okay, so you also need to be curious about learning more, or feeling the desire of learning more, completing your study, your personal study on something. That leads you to have to make more informed decisions. It's like, and we know what is right. I fundamentally believe that if we cross the street and then you throw a piece of paper on the floor, you know that is wrong.
Yeah.
I don't have to write it down somewhere. And I think that And that decision of not throwing anything on the street, but putting on a garbage can, it's a decision that took hundreds of years, maybe, to, and it makes total sense on that. It's not even a conversation. And when you see somebody doing it, you just go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go in certain countries or certain places where everything is on the floor. And then you go in other places like Singapore where you don't find anything in the street.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that is right or wrong. I think I'm saying that the how do you say, the core of everything, it's education. It's becoming informed and becoming more and more clear about what is right or wrong for yourself, and then your community. We cannot create a planet. We have individual, we have personalities, and I don't want to change that. I love that, but I think that we need to have some respect for the community we live in, and we say, for the good of everybody, for the good of humanity, we need to do this. We trying to. Sometimes maybe you need to force it, or maybe sometimes you need to say, you need to scream louder. But I think that the most important thing for those people that don't understand is just give them a book.
Sure.
Or two or three or four. Or provide schooling, provide guidance, provide inspiration. And
Well, you're right, because all of the answers are already there. I think you mentioned that earlier. And there's certainly everything you can find in a book that will answer questions.
I think so. I think it's like, it's like, without going too far, it's like, it's religion. Do I need a religion to tell me that I cannot kill another person? No. I think it's already there. I mean, maybe 100,000 years ago, maybe there was a very primitive concept about territorial life. Right now, it's like I don't need somebody to tell me that. It's like stealing, or I don't know. It just doesn't register.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't register.
There was something I read on one of your Instagram posts the other day that I wanted to bring up. It was. I love your dialogue on your post, but you specifically said, "Live with a lot less stuff around me and a lot more love."
Yeah. Well, what did you like about that, or what didn't you like about that?
No, it just rang true. It made a whole lot of sense to me.
I think that we have, for some particular reasons, well, our society is based on consumerism. And the more we consume, the more we make company prosper. The more we consume, the happier we are. That's what they tell us. You need that pair of shoes because your life is going to change. Fundamentally, we don't need anything. We need the minimum indispensable to live, and the only thing that we need to enrich is our brain. And I think that love and compassion are, love is love. It's like it's the impossible sentiment to describe. At the same time, we know that you have to love, and you shouldn't expect anything in return. And if that is clear, you need a lot less in life. And I think that what is a complication in our system, look at it. It takes a virus to open our eyes. It's like and all of a sudden we're all very sentimental. We all love each other. We all want a big company to be smaller, and we want to be more creative. We want to reorganize our life. We want to reimagine the future. It's like, where were you 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And so I think that when I say that we have too much is because uh, physically we possess a lot of objects, cars and a house and books, and I see all around my house, my office, there's stuff everywhere. And my wish is for a lot less, a lot less. Is that I think it's the bureaucracy of our here what it is. It's the bureaucracy of our lives that concerns me.
Yeah.
Okay, like corporations are the bureaucracy of corporations, and I found this word that really speaks to me, which is adhocracy. Adhocracy is basically is a nucleus, is a family, could be a family, could be a company that is quick to change, that can change quickly according to internal and external situations. It's the opposite of the corporation that we have now, or the family that we're building. We need
Yeah.
a house, we need to have two cars, we need to have, certain things seems to be indispensable. And now we know that we can actually live with no driving. Uh, uh, we can cook. Actually, we can actually survive our life by cooking ourselves.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Now we're discovering that going to a supermarket is an event. Okay, we were taking everything for granted, and I'm glad that we are living this experience because hopefully we're learning plenty from it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of negativity. The negative aspect of it is that the people losing their jobs, factories that are closing, smaller company like ourselves, I have no idea what the future is going to be tomorrow. Cancellation of orders. We're talking about the industry of fashion and how this industry is going to change with time. It's going to be a massive change.
Yeah.
And actually, I hope so. I hope we're going to change because we knew the system was broken way before
Yeah.
the coronavirus.
You're
Way
right.
we
You're right.
we didn't want to say too much because we are part of a mechanism.
Sure.
But trade shows that don't work, retailers that are not selling. Of course, your shop is bad and there is no customer service. Companies that are, oh, we need to go to the business. Of course, it goes to the business because your foundation, your principle, the foundation of the business is wrong.
Yeah.
It is wrong. It's just another. It's another company that does exactly the same thing like many other companies.
Well,
And
I think, sorry, I think what this is going to provide as an opportunity is I've had several conversations recently with brands and people, and they felt lost. They felt lost as where they were as a brand or a company. And what this is really allowing is an opportunity for people to go back originally to the first idea of what they had, or that first passion of what they had that started them in the first place. And then when they reach, when they're back at that place, then look at the ethics of the reasoning of what they're doing, and restructure it that way, and look at things through the through the lens that way.
yeah, I think it's a moment where every company in any industry should think and should really get ready for something hopefully better than what they had before. If they have the courage to change. There are a lot of people and companies that will be very opportunistic, and they will want a piece of the pie. And I think that's or a larger piece of the pie, and that will more than the company. Now I think it's interesting, the conversation more than the company is like, what are we doing as citizen to understand what company I want to be associated with in the future.
Yeah.
Were they good to me for the last 10 years? Are they good? Who is behind it? Do
Yeah.
they quality product? Do I need them in my life? Citizens, only the citizen will determine the success of companies based on who they are and what type of product they do and how they service the world. Sustainability or not, great product or not, luxury or cheap, whatever industry, whatever price point, citizen must be informed. That's the education. Must be informed. They will make company bigger or smaller, or they will make company to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the citizens remain ignorant about what's going on, and they will not be able to make good choices. Now,
I love everything about that, what you just said, Maurizio, and I could carry on talking with you forever because you're such an interesting person intellectually. What I would like to add to this before we finish is that as you were talking about citizens, you made me think that there is a complete correction right now with regards to what is deemed as an influential person, whether that's in whatever industry it's in. I think you are an influential person through your actions and character. And I believe or think that if the world or planet had an advisory board, I think that you should be on that advisory board.
that's very generous of you. I don't think I will be able to do that type of job, but I thank you for your kind words. But I really enjoyed this conversation, Luke, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to understand a little bit more who I am.
Oh, well, thank you. Before we go, Maurizio, just say how anyone watching or listening can follow you or see more of your work, Atelier Repairs and yourself.
Well, there is something called Instagram. It's and I am on Instagram with my Maurizio Donadi, and then Atelier Repairs, and then another small project called Transnomatica, which is nothing else than the building of my archive. And just DM me, and I try to answer everybody. I don't get thousands of inquiries, but I get a few, and sometimes I'm late. But I'm super available and am very happy to engage.
Fantastic. Maurizio, I love you. Thank you for your conversation and time.
Thank you.
You're a great human being. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to Maurizio. I'm truly inspired by the conversation we just had, and hopefully you take something away from it that may change the way you live your life or may spark you to think about other things. I'll be back tomorrow. We have another great conversation tomorrow, so please join in again. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.